Hi guitarlings, I'm Gray at Hub Guitar, here today with a tutorial on the Celtic tune Drowsy Maggie, arranged for solo fingerstyle guitar. Before we start, a couple things. First of all, I've got a capo on the 2nd fret. That is optional, but I do like to use it when I can. This tune is in the tuning known as Dadgad, D-A-D-G-A-D. Dadgad is used very commonly in Celtic guitar music, and it has a very sort of modal sound for the open strings because they are tuned to the root, the 5th, and the 4th of the key of D, so there's no major or minor third, making it very useful and interesting for modal tunes. To get the Dadgad from standard tuning, you can actually use your other strings for reference pitches. So it's pretty easy to do once you get used to it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 6th string, I'm going to match it to my 4th string, which is D. So I'm going to tune my 6th string down to D. Then I'm going to match my high E string to D as well, also using the 4th string. Now all I need to do is take my 2nd string, which is now at B, and tune it down to A. I can use my open 5th string as a reference pitch for that. Once you've tuned up, you can use a tuner just to double check your tuning. Now, of course, I've got the capo on, so I have to keep in mind that the names of the notes are different than what I just said. But generally, because I'm pretty close to the target tuning, I'm just going for the green part. I don't look at the actual name of the note. I just go for the green. So there's our Dadgad tuning, and we're ready to start. Alright, so we're starting at measure 1 with a D5, which is a power chord basically. We're going to play the open D string and the open D string. So we're going to play the 6th and 4th string, and that's a quarter note. And then we'll go to the open 2nd string, back to the open 4th string, and then we need to put a finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. So except for the first D on the 4th string, I play the rest of those with my thumb like this. So just one big D5 chord there, and then on to measure 2. In measure 2, we're going to start with the same chord, but we're going to go to a little C chord. You might find it helpful to pluck the C with your thumb, and then use your middle finger to pluck the open G, and index finger to pluck the E on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. Measure 3 is the same as measure 1. Measure 4 starts off in a similar vein before going to this C chord. So I've got my 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 5th string, I've got my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string, and in between those I have my index finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. And that's how you play a C chord in this tuning. Measures 5, 6, and 7 are actually the same as measures 1, 2, and 3. Measure 8 is almost the same as measure 4, except for the last note is a little different. So that's it for the first half. Let's hear it all together. The second half is not quite so easy as the first half, as we've got a bunch of new chords showing up. At measure 9, we're starting with a C major chord. I've got my 2nd finger on the 3rd fret of the 5th string, index finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, open 3rd string, and 3rd finger, which is my ring finger, on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. I've got to lift my index finger up to get the 2nd fret of the 1st string shortly after. But the follow-through note there, I'm still playing with the same finger, which is my 3rd finger. Now I've got to switch to this G chord. So I like to take my middle finger and index finger, which have a shape that's similar to the G chord, and move them up to frets 4 for the index finger and 5 for the middle finger. You can kind of see that as I shift, my fingers can stay in the same shape. So that's our G chord. Practice that over and over. I found with tunes like this, it's very helpful just to take a short piece, like 1 or 2 measures, and work them through over and over again until they're relatively fluent. Now in measure 10, we've got an A minor 7 chord. So that's open 5th string, first finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, open 3rd string, and then you can put your 3rd or 4th finger on the 3rd fret of the 2nd string. And then we walk up the melody on the high E string. Now at the second half of measure 10, we've got this slur figure. So it's starting at the 5th fret with the pinky. Pluck that, then pull to 3, pull to 2, pull to open, and then hammer back on the 2. And then pull off back to open. So starting again on the 5th fret, pull to 3, pull to 2, pull to open, hammer the 2nd fret, and then pull back to open. And then go to the C chord. So practice that nice and slowly. When you're doing your pull-offs, kind of pluck the string a little tiny bit to the side just so that you can re-articulate it. And when you're doing your hammer-ons, make sure that you forcefully connect your finger into the fretboard to maintain the sustain. Measure 11 is the same as measure 9. And then for measure 12, I like to slide down. I've got my middle finger on the 5th fret. I like to slide that down 2 frets to the 3rd fret of the 6th string to get the first half of measure 12, and then I build up to that A minor 7 like that. So all together. Measures 13 and 14 are actually totally the same as measures 9 and 10. At measure 15, we've got a little cascading figure starting on the 5th fret of the 1st string. So there are finger markings for each of these so that you can hopefully get through it without making a bad finger choice. So we've got our index finger on the 5th fret, then our 3rd finger on the 7th fret of the 2nd string, followed by the pinky, and follow through with an open string. Notice that 8 and open are ringing together. And we go back to the 7th fret. So index, 3rd, pinky, open, 3rd, index, open, index. Try to maximize the amount of resonance with multiple strings resonating together. And then we go to measure 16, which we've encountered before. So that kind of sets up the return back to the modal introduction. So measures 1 and 8 had a very D modal sound, but starting from measure 9, it had a sort of major sound. So when we get to measure 16, we're setting ourselves up to repeat, to go back to measure 1. We can repeat that however many times we want, and then when we're finally done, instead of repeating, we just go to measure 17, which is a D sus4 chord. That's 6, 4, 3, and 2 strings open. All right, so that's it for Drowsy Maggie. Thanks for watching.